Hey y'all, this is Leslie. Just want to chit chat. I guess I call it a rant. I don't know what else to call it other than, just sharing thoughts or whatever. I've had a lot of very positive and interesting feedback in regards to like my video update where I'm talking about my divorce, and I just shared a little. I didn't share everything. There's a lot more that I need to share, like different things that happened and dreams that were had and just words and things that God shared with me throughout the separation and divorce period. And if you don't already know, I was my husband left me in January of 2022, and then we just became divorced Valentine's Day of this year, so 2/14/2023. And so of course it was a very tumultuous journey. It had lots of ups and downs, lots of emotional stuff and all the things, but kind of what I want to touch on today is single motherhood. Now I know I haven't been a single mother long, but I have to say that I am actually pleasantly surprised that I'm enjoying it as much as I am. I thought prior to all of this, even before we went down the road that we went to, have gone through whatever, I never wanted to be a single mom. I was raised by a single mom, and my grandparents, and both sets of grandparents were just completely instrumental in my upbringing. But my maternal grandparents helped a lot, took care of my sister and myself while my mom was working. We were all living together. And so and that was back living in Chicago. Fast forward to I was about 12, we moved here to Vegas where I currently live, and we've pretty much always been together. Or even when I moved away before I got married, I was only like maybe 30 minutes away. So whatever was going on, I've always been very close to family. Anyhow, I was raised by my single mom. My dad really wasn't in the picture for a long time. I mean, in the sense that we would see him, but he wasn't like doing what I felt like he should be doing as a father, right? He wasn't really worried about seeing us like that. We would see him, but it wasn't like a parental relationship. Honestly, for a long time, I felt like he was like an uncle. And so I had a lot of resentment and bitterness and all those things, rejection and abandonment, issues towards him for years. And it wasn't until I was 27 years old, thanks to some amazing women at the church that I was going to then, that is once again the church that I'm at now, but they really helped me see that I needed to forgive him and move forward, or in order to move forward I really needed to forgive him. And so that was a big pivot, I guess you could say, in life. However, I watched my mom raise my sister and I with the help of my grandparents, like I said, both paternal and maternal, pretty much by herself. My parents were married until my father passed away in July of 2021. Okay, so they were not together. They separated when my sister was born, around the time that I was 3 years old. But they were never together again, but they just never divorced. And so I always wanted my mom to, and I still want my mom to get remarried and everything, but that just is not something that has happened thus far. And of course, obviously, if you're married to somebody, that you shouldn't anyway, unless you're polygamous, get married. But that's a whole nother. Anyhow, watching her be a single mom for basically all my life, I knew that I did not want to be a single mother. And so when I got married, my prayer was that it was definitely going to be for the long run. I was not going to leave. I wanted my children to be raised in a single parent home, or like your family's always together, that whole yada yada yada. And now here I am, 2 months divorced, but we were separated and January of 2022, and I have to honestly say that I am enjoying motherhood much more separated than I ever did when we were together. And well, I shouldn't say ever did, but I should say, yeah, for the most part, for the last few years, because my son is 7, my daughter's 5, and my third child, a daughter, is 4 now. And I have to be honest, it was a challenge to accept that I was going to be a single mom at first, but now that I am, it's not as bad as I thought. I thought, oh my gosh, like, how I'm going to do this is, and luckily for me, which is not everyone's story, so I'm extremely blessed. Please don't think that I'm not cognizant of the fact that I have help, because I have my mother, I have my sister, my grandparents, the ones who raised me live across the street. So my children are able to interact with them. I have my in-laws, that family, that are, an amazing help to us as well. I have my church family. I have friends. So I have a lot of people that I'm surrounded by. I have friends that are 2 single moms and have been for a while and are helping me just navigate this whole this season that I'm in. But I mean, it just feels like such a weight was lifted, because I was really struggling with motherhood. I was struggling with being married, because the marriage was no good. And I believe that trickled over how I felt as a person, and the things that I was experiencing trickled over into my marriage. So I'm not, it takes 2, right? There were things that he did, there was things that I did or didn't do, and I feel like a lot of things fell apart. I believe that there were a lot of extramarital activities going on and things of that nature, but still, I know that my heart was no longer invested in it for quite a while, because I just felt things were very off. I didn't have proof that things were off, but I just knew I'm being lied to, and I just don't like this individual anymore. I don't like myself, who I have become, who I've allowed myself to become, because I lost my identity in my marriage. I felt like I wanted to just be in the shadow of my husband, and a lot of that was my own fear, and he's more of an extrovert than I am, so it was easy for me to hide, because I felt like there was a lot bubbling up on the inside of me that God was calling me to do and to be, and I wanted to suppress it, and I wanted to just allow him to become, and to like support him from behind. But I was going through such an internal war and struggle, because that's not who God called me to be. He called me to come alongside and to help, but there were a lot of inconsistencies with that individual, so I could not help. I couldn't support his journey in ministry when I didn't believe in him. You know what I'm saying? When I no longer believed in him, because at first, you couldn't tell me nothing. That was my husband. I loved him. I supported him. I believed in him. I believed he was going to go far in ministry. As time went on, I started to see a lot of things that I myself couldn't put like a stamp of approval or be like, yeah, y'all should come and listen to him, because I couldn't listen to him, because I couldn't follow the direction that he was going in. And I don't think that he gets that, or got that. Nonetheless, here I sit now, right? A single mom, and I feel so much more present as a mom. I'm not sitting in my head thinking about how much I can't stand this person, or how much I want to get away from this person. And it's funny, because after I got over a lot of the emotional stuff tied to separation and divorce, and I really started to see things for what it is, trying to come to grips with the fact that I'm going through grief, I'm going through loss, I'm going through counseling, and it's helping me weed through some of these things that I'm feeling and experiencing. I started to realize, like, because initially I thought like, I don't want to be married, I don't want to be a mom, I'm just not in a good place, I'm depressed, I just don't know. And it wasn't even so much, I was depressed, but it wasn't even so much that I didn't want to be a mom. I love my children, and you know, it's just that it was hard to be a mom with all that extra stuff. And of course, I'm going to continue to harp on this. I'm not an advocate for divorce, but I do see why people say it's better to have like a happy mom, healthy mom, and dad in separate households, because I feel like such a better mom not being attached to their dad anymore. It was getting to the point that I really started to hate him, because I was only internalizing, but I wasn't vocalizing what I felt like Holy Spirit was telling me. I was just telling myself I was crazy. I was just telling myself that no, he wouldn't do this, he's not doing that, this is all you, blah 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 blah, the kids are driving you crazy, you're a bad mom, you're this, you're that. But when all of that stuff started to dissipate and move away, I felt so much closer to my children. I felt so much more able to really interact with them the way that I wanted to. It was like a fog lifted, a cloud lifted. And I'm not trying to sit up here and say like all of a sudden I'm a perfect parent or anything like that, but I'm able to just be, and I'm able to breathe, and I'm able to parent the way that I want to, or without any without any extras, you know what I mean? Like without anybody else's opinion or thoughts. And he's doing whatever he wants to over there, and I can't control it, don't want to control it. I can just focus on my time with them when they're with me, and it feels really good because I'm able to get a break without feeling like I'm a bad mom, right? Because on one hand, he would tell me, take a break. Because I've been a stay-at-home mom for about almost 5 years now, I think, or 5 years, about 5 years now. On one hand, he would tell me, take a break. And then when I would take a break, you always leaving me with the kids, or this, you know. So it was never, I never felt like I was okay to do that. I felt like I need to take a break, or I want to try to work on my business because I want to try to bring an income from my side into the home. I want to be a help me in that way. But I was also struggling with a lot of my own personal identity issues, identity crisis, low self-esteem, fear of failure, fear of success, just a whole lot of things. For anybody who's open their own business or trying to open their own business, you know, it comes with a lot. And so I did not know how to properly wrap my head around all those things, and I'm still trying to navigate that and figure that out now. But it's actually a lot easier now that is taken off of my plate. And it's not even so much because I believe that I am supposed to be a wife, right? I believe that I am a wife regardless of the ending of the marriage. However, I feel like right now I'm able to just be mom, find Leslie again, walk in what God has called me. Like I feel like a renewal in my mind, and I just feel reinvigorated to like do ministry, excited about it again. And it was like, sometimes I think that you have to get dead weight off of your plate, right? And I get it, he left me, and that's fine. I don't have any qualms about that anymore. Before I was like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. But honestly, it's not. He left. Life goes on. And I feel like a better life is going on. Like a life that has peace, and I feel like has meaning now. And I feel like it really took me going through this for me to find me again. And I feel like that's more important than having been married to that person, to be quite honest. And I'm not trying to like throw any shade or anything like that. I feel like knowing who I am is more important than being married to him. And I believe that I'm going to be married again, right? And I believe all that I've gone through is going to help me in my next marriage. And my sincere prayer is that I get what I need out of my marriage, because I didn't get what I was needing, and he didn't get what he was needing. I don't think that I necessarily had the capacity to be married to him for as long as I was. A great part of me wanted to be done with the marriage a long time ago, but a great part of me was afraid to be done with the marriage, because I felt like, well, who am I if I'm not married to him? And that in itself is a bad reason to stay in a marriage. I don't know, for those of you who are married or going through and you're just feeling like, what is this all about? What am I supposed to be doing? Who am I? I mean, it just seems like it's so easy for women. I don't know about men, but for women, it seems like it's so easy for us to lose ourselves in the motherhood and the marriage and the ministry and I'm supposed to be a businesswoman. I'm supposed to juggle all these hats. I'm supposed to do all this and that. And for me, when I feel overwhelmed, I just kind of shut down. And it takes a while for me to really switch it back into gear. Now, some people are just like, okay, whatever, I got to do this, got to move ahead. But for me, I have a lot of walls or blocks up, right, that I have to be able to overcome in order to be able to say, okay, now I can move ahead, now I can move forward. And I'm finally in a place where I'm feeling like I'm moving forward. I'm able to move forward, and everything doesn't have to be on somebody else's timeline. It has to be, for it to be sustainable, I believe that it has to be in your own time frame. You have to see things, and other people can tell you, like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to move forward, you gotta, but if you don't see it, if you don't want it, it doesn't matter what anybody else says, because they can't live their life for you, right? Nobody can force me to do anything, because it won't be sustainable. I won't know how to maintain it. And so here I am now, feeling like I'm in a much better place where I'm able to create and sustain the type of life that I want. Now, whomever God is bringing into my life, great. But I also want to be in a place where I'm self-sufficient, to not need a person, but to want a person, right? There's a difference. I felt like I needed him, and I don't know that, and I did not want him. I needed him because I put myself in the place where I was so dependent on him, that I needed him, but I did not want him or desire him like that. You understand what I'm saying? It was just I don't know how to be if I leave. The first time that I wanted to leave was right after our second child was born. So she was born August of 2017. And I remember that days after she was born, I wanted to leave. And I told myself, you're just going through postpartum. You're just tripping. Your hormones is high. You don't know what you're talking about, but some things had transpired and I was ready to go. And it wasn't even like he did anything specifically to me, but I just no longer felt protected, and I didn't feel trust towards him. And it had kind of been building up for a while. It was just a crazy year. And the culmination of it ended with me feeling like I can't trust him like that anymore. Not with my life. And I feel like I need to be able to trust my spouse with my life. On the flip side, I did trust a lot of things about him. So I felt like, well, you'll be foolish to leave. He's a good man. He's a good father. He's a this, he's a that. He's respected. He's respectable. All that has changed for me. I don't see him in the way that I used to see him. And so for me to have wanted to leave back in 2017, but not to been able to have the courage to do it, because I felt like I just quit my job, and because I became a stay-at-home mom after she was born. How am I going to be able to take care of myself and my children? definitely wasn't trusting God the way I should have, because if I truly believed that I was supposed to go, then I would have gone, and I would have been like, okay, God's gonna take care of me. Nonetheless, if I had have left at that time, I wouldn't have my third child. So I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's. I'm glad that I didn't, because if I didn't have her, I don't know, where I would be. But I just know how I felt at that time, and I know that I felt very done with the marriage. But at the same time, that's why I just feel like I was so double-minded for so long, because if I'm done with the marriage, but then I'm afraid to leave, like, what are you gonna do? So I stayed, and things just, I guess, over time just gradually kind of got worse. For me, I don't know what all he was doing. I just know that I didn't trust the different things that he was doing. It really started off with me not trusting his leadership. I just not feeling like he was leading our family. I don't feel like he led our family from the very beginning. And I had voiced that to him several times, and it just, in my opinion, nothing ever really came of it. Nothing ever really changed. He was very much posing as a leader in multiple other arenas, on his job in ministry, as a youth minister, as a later as a pastor. But it just seemed like at home there was no leadership. And then so what happens is I then become the leader, right? And so I'm then out of order for trying to lead the household, but you're out of order for not leading the household when you're in the covering. So it just became a mess. The foundation that we built just began to break. It began to crumble. And I thought, well, we've made this vow. I'm just going to stay in it. And it was like a cycle. Like, I would be okay for a while, then I would go back to, man, this is just not where I want to be. So over time, as you can tell, things just continue to break down. He went off his way doing what all the things that he was doing, and I was just being kind of naive and trying to pretend like certain things weren't taking place that were, and it led to the demise of the marriage. I feel kind of like, I don't know, because it was very difficult when it was happening, but it also was like a sense of relief, because after almost 10 years total or whatever of being with this person, and even having known him as a friend for 7 years before we got together, it was just kind of like, it's over. It has ran its course. It's over and it's done with. I don't feel in love with this individual anymore. I hadn't felt in love with that individual for some time. I felt love, right? But I didn't feel in love. And that's not good for a marriage. I didn't feel romantic feelings toward this individual anymore. And I kept telling myself, this is just the ebbs and flows of marriage, and it's just going to change, eventually. Like, we're just going through a period. I'm just going through a depression. We've moved from the house that, we got married in, raised or birthed our children in. Now we've moved. Okay, so what was happening was we moved from our home and we moved to my mom's house because we were buying another house, and it was going to take about 3 or 4 months for the house to be built. And so we were just supposed to be at my mom's house temporarily. Well, everything kind of came to a head, and so that obviously didn't happen. And so I just felt a lot of like, well, we were going to get the house. I was like, no, you know what? I don't think I want the house. Let's keep looking. As soon as we let go of that house, the market went up to the point that we couldn't afford. So we were like, we're just going to stay here for a little while until the market starts to come down. In the meantime of that, everything imploded, exploded, or whatever. So none of that happened. So it was just, I just felt a lot of depression. I felt depression moving in, like I'm moving from my own place to back to the place that I was raised. that made me feel weird, even though I was very much my family didn't make me feel that way. That was just my own internal thing, because I had already started with the feelings of depression, the feelings of anxiety, the feelings of low self-esteem, the whole gamut. And so it just only intensified over time, and by the time I realized this is really what I've been sitting in for months and months, it had been about 10 months to a year of it. And then I let him know, like, I need therapy. I'm not in a good place. I don't trust, I don't believe you, I don't know if I want to be with you, I feel like I'm not a good mother, like just all the things. Everything just kind of went downhill from there. At least at that time it felt like downhill, but now I feel like all of that had to happen, all that implosion had to happen for me to get to where I am right now. And I would do it again, because I found such an immense amount of self-worth through the whole process. Him and I aren't on good terms, but right now I'm okay with that being the price that is being paid, or that's what's going on in order for me to find me. Because right now, finding me is more important than having a relationship with him. As long as we can co-parent and, our handoffs with our children is fine and pretty much worry-free, then that's fine with me. I don't need to have a relationship with him. And he don't. I'm sure he probably doesn't want one with me right now. He's getting married again. He's doing his thing or whatever, and it's just a lot. It's just a lot of change. It's just a lot of newness that's going on, and some of it is very hurtful, and some of it is like, well, such is life. This is what happens. So I'm looking forward to the new, but I say all that to say, like, single motherhood is not as bad as I thought. I thought I was just going to be like so miserable. I thought, because I've seen a lot of moms who are miserable, and it doesn't have to be that. Like, I enjoy my children so much more by myself. Like last night, two of my children, after my son goes to karate, after karate, my son and my youngest daughter went with their dad to spend the night over there, and my middle daughter stayed with me. And so she was like, can we get cake pops from Starbucks? And I was like, okay. So we went to Starbucks, we got cake pops and we got drinks, and we came back home, and I was like, why don't we walk over to the park? And we just took a walk to the park, and we just talked, and she just told me all about, some stuff going on at school with some of her classmates, and we just walked around, and I was like, anything you want to talk about, anything you want to share? And we just talked. Now she's 5 years old, so it was just good, just talking and walking with her. And then she played at the park for a little while, and I just walked around and played with her and helped her, like, do the monkey bars and things. It was just a good time to just kind of sit and talk with her and have that mommy daughter time with her. And I like to be able to do things with all three of them, but also separate. So it's good sometimes when my son goes with his dad and they have their time, and I have time with just the girls, or the girls go with their dad and I have time with just my son. Like, I'm looking forward to those times. I'm looking forward to taking them different places and things. Before, when I was with their dad, everything felt so heavy and so burdensome, and I just feel so much lighter now. And so, I'm of course not glorifying single parenthood or divorce. I'm always going to say that, but I get it now. And I think that a lot of women resonate after coming out of, a bad marriage, a broken marriage or whatever. You just feel like a reinvigoration, if you will, for your parent, like your motherhood. I pray you do anyway. I pray you get to that point or whatever, of just feeling like I can breathe again. Me and my kids can enjoy and have fun. It's like a fog has lifted. I don't know, share with me your experiences. And I've really enjoyed, like, the emails and the comments that you ladies have been leaving. It's been really helpful and uplifting to me, very encouraging to me, because I already knew I was not alone, but I am realizing that some of you feel like how I felt. Like at first I felt like I'm so alone. You're not alone. At first I felt alone, and then I got to the point where I was like, I am not alone. God has never left me. He's not going to leave me. I have moments of loneliness, right? And so that's when I'll get into my word, and that's when I'll pray and just be like, God, remove this feeling of loneliness, because what am I really lonely about? I will stop and I will count up the cost. I will stop and I will think like, but when this individual was around, you felt like this. When this individual was here, you felt like that. Like I had a lot more negative emotions than positive. And so once he left, I started to feel like an influx of joy coming in. I started to feel like peace and serenity and just tranquility, and just like I felt like my mind was coming back together. I felt like I was able to get a better handle on my emotions. Like seeing if seeing a person puts you into a negative headspace, if hearing a person chew and breathe makes you feel like, good God on me, then you know what I mean, it's time to let that thing go. And I was so afraid. So I honestly have to be thankful in the sense that he left. I'm thankful that he left me, because I think that it would have taken me longer to really be honest about the fact, like, I don't want to be with this individual anymore. And it was, and how do I separate it? Because I had so many mixed emotions and feelings tied to the fact that I didn't want to be a single mother, the fact that I didn't want my children to be raised in a broken, quote unquote, home. But I'm okay. And not to say that that justifies things, but my dad was not around for a long time. My father and I didn't reconcile and have a relationship until I was 27. He tried for a long time, but when I got like into my 20s and stuff, but I had a lot of resentment and abandonment issues because he wasn't there, you know, as a child and growing up and everything like that. So it was hard for me to let him in. And so when I finally did, you know, we were able to have a successful relationship. And then when he passed in 2021, we were on good terms. You know, I was able to speak at my father's funeral and do it from a place of actual love. Years before that, I don't even know that I would have gone to his funeral, to be quite honest. So I thank God for that change of heart. I thank God for that forgiveness and the renewal of my mind in that instance. So when my father passed, I didn't have any regrets. And now I think about him and I'm like, man, you really sat up here and died. Like, you really sat up here and died and went to heaven. Like, how dare you, sir? But you see, like, I have a different feeling about it. Like, I don't have any ill intent. I don't have any sadness in the sense of like I wasn't able to reconnect with my dad. My children were able to meet my dad and spend time with him, even though he lived in Chicago. You know, we didn't see each other a whole lot, but like we were able to go back and they were able to know who he was. They were able to talk to him on the phone. Just that whole, you know, there was a whole turnaround. And so I don't know, like I said, a rant, because I just go on and on, but I just feel so much better about like everything that is occurring, even though it's hard. And even though, you know, me and my ex really we not vibing, okay? I'm not in a place where I feel like we have to at this moment. If we do eventually down the road, great. If we don't, I kind of feel like that's cool too. I'm in no hurry or desire to be friends with that individual. There's just too much that's going on in life right now to be concerned. Like I said, as long as we can co-parent and exist peacefully, that's all that really matters to me at this moment. I'm just enjoying where I am with my children right now. I feel like we're just in a really good place. And I hope that he feels that way about his relationship with our children. Like, I hope that he's enjoying parenting better with me out of the picture, you know? Like, I feel like we're better for it. Yeah. And it took me a while to get to this place, but I feel like we're so much better. I'm better for it. I don't know what that man got going on, so I can't say, but all I know is I feel like I'm better for it. And so for those of you who may be in a relationship and you may be afraid to leave, I wish I could say that, I was just like, I'm not afraid anymore, I'm up out of here. But I wasn't. And in turn, I was the one who was left. But it is okay. And even in that, don't feel any shame and any guilt around that. As a woman, it's usually the woman that does the leaving. But I didn't. And he left me, and I no longer feel shame around that. Like, my husband left me. My ex-husband, he left me. Okay? Life is going on. One monkey don't stop no show. Like, he's doing his thing. And I'm gonna do my thing. Like, okay. It frees me up for true love, right? It frees me up to enjoy life on my terms. It frees me up to be able to do all the things that I was not allowing myself to do because I was too inundated with depression. And how do I navigate this? Is this marriage going to bounce back? Is it not? I'm going to stay in it, but I'm miserable in it. And so now that's no longer a factor in my life. My time is my own. I can think clearly, I don't know. Don't let the thought of being a single mom deter you, or the fear of being a single mom deter you from doing what you know is best for you. And go to God. Don't just sit up here and get a divorce because I said I'm happy on this side, right? That I'm happier than I've been in years. Marriage is not the be all and end all of me. It's a part of you. It's a portion of you. It's, perhaps something that you're called to, right? But it's not the be all end all of life. And so if God says, Leslie, you're not going to get married for another 10 years, then I'm just not going to get married for another 10 years. That doesn't mean I can't travel and have fun. That doesn't mean I can't go and, build new relationships and have hobbies and watch my children grow and be prosperous and myself be prosperous. It's like, I don't necessarily need a spouse to do any of those things. If God says your spouse is here tomorrow, great. I can do those things. I can live, I can be whom God has called me to be, with or without. And that is something that I did not realize. And it's so interesting because when I was pregnant with my first, my pastor was like, who says that you can't be a mom, a minister, and married? Like, who says you can't do all the things? And for whatever reason, I couldn't wrap my head around it. It was like, it's just too much. It's too much. I'm trying to figure out how to navigate pregnancy, and next thing I know, in a couple months, I'm going to be a mom. I'm trying to wrap my head around everything, and it was just a lot. Everything felt overwhelming for me. And so I was like, well, in order to do one thing, like, I have to be married and I have to be a mom because the baby is coming. So I'm going to have to put ministry down. Like, I didn't realize that all things really can be done at once. Like, God doesn't give me more than I can handle, but for whatever reason, everything just felt like I couldn't handle. And now I'm seeing, like, you can handle all the things, and I'm in a place where he's preparing me, so when that person comes along, I will be able to handle all the things effectively this time, right? And I won't be fearful of it, because right now I feel like God is like reigniting my ministry. I'm being nosy, looking out this window, seeing who's coming out this car. It's one of my neighbors. Anyway, he's reigniting and restarting ministry in me now. And even in this, like, I never thought that ministry would include divorce, but it is. And I feel like he's putting me in a position to where I can be able to pour into and speak life into women who are going through divorce. And I know I'm newly divorced, but that doesn't mean that I can't still speak a word into the lives of those that are divorced or about to go through divorce or contemplating, and just navigating separation and all those things. This stuff was hard, y'all. This stuff was very hard, and I did not think that I was going to make it through, but by the grace of God, I have. Just because it was something that, for a while I was like, God, I don't want to be in this miserable marriage anymore. It didn't make it any less difficult coming out of it. But there's just so much. I don't know. it's just so much that you're going to experience, but it is so much better on the other side of it. And that's the thing about it. Sometimes we feel like we're not going to get to the other side, especially when you're in that thing. And I'm still dealing with a lot, but when I tell y'all I can breathe again, like, I see so much hope. And I see the favor and the hand of God on my life. And I believe that many of you will experience the same thing when you just really put it in his hands and just leave it there. Because, I mean, I don't know what else. I'm just like, I'm at a point where I'm like, God, ain't nothing else I can do. I can't go back. I can't go back to, after I've seen everything that God has brought me through within the ending of this marriage, but the renewal of my life, there's no way I can go back to being in a place of, I don't know if I trust you, God. Like, no, I gotta trust you all the way, because you really did. My friend kept saying God's gonna spin the block for you, and he really, 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 really did. And it's like, I know he's going to continue to. The more that I'm obedient, the more I hear him. The more that I'm obedient, the more I see him. And it's like, he's telling me just continue on. And so I'm telling you, just continue on. Just be obedient. I know that it's going to be difficult, because sometimes he's going to call you to do some things that are very hard and cause you to have some hard conversations that you don't want to have. And it may not even be that it's hard, but it's just like that. It just seems so taxing and so emotionally draining. But have those hard conversations. Have them first with God. Okay, the conversations that you don't want to have with if you're currently going through separation, divorce, whatever, that you have to have with your spouse, or the conversation of getting to separation and divorce, have the conversation, but first seek God about it. At the beginning of this thing, I was not in a place where I was seeking God. I was just like, I have to get all of these things off of my chest and say what I have to say. And so I think a lot of things came out in a way that were not conducive to a amicable split. And the only thing I can say is really seek God for how whatever you're experiencing is supposed to actually transpire, because you don't want to say anything that later on will have you in a place where you really don't want to fool with the individual. And it's crazy because initially when he was leaving, I was very hurt, I was very broken, but at the same time I was like, I think that this is definitely what needs to happen. But at the same time, I was like, but God, I also am afraid. Like, I want my marriage to work, right? But I was also like, I know this is done. And so at first I felt like God was saying like, fight for your marriage, fight. And so I was praying and warring and fasting. And then it came to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't know that God is telling me that I'm supposed to be standing for this thing. I was standing, and I kept asking God, like, bring it back together, God. Like, let me be the one where, you know, my spouse and I just miraculously, we come back together, and we got the story of, for the glory of God, we got back together and all that, blah, blah, blah. And God kept giving me dreams, showing me like, no, that's not what's going to happen. Like, look at this. This is what's been going on. This is what's been said. Like, literally allowing me to be a fly on the wall and hear conversations, right? And showing me like, there is a lot here that you just don't understand. There is no loyalty. There has not been any loyalty towards you, right? You need to go on. I've got better for you. God kept showing me I got better for you. From the beginning, God was showing me I have better for you. And I was just like, but this is who I'm married to, God. Are you really telling me that, like, I need to not be with this person? Shouldn't I be fighting for this? And after a couple months, it became evident, like, no, you should not. You should move forward so you can move on. Because I got something. The one that you want to sit here and stand for, and the one that you want to pray is coming back to you. Baby, it's like when you scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like, God's saying, I got something so much better for you if you let go of that thing. You know, the whole thing with the teddy bear. Jesus got the bigger teddy bear. The little girl is holding on to the little one. Give it up. Let it go. Because I got better for you. I've got greater for you. And even though I've yet to meet the bigger, the better, the greater, I feel it so intently in my spirit, like this individual is coming and it's going to be so much better than what I've been thinking or what I was holding on to. And I feel that when I tell y'all, I feel that thing, because like when I see this individual, I'm like, no, I just know in my knower, this does not compare to what God has for me. Like the glory of what God is doing, like I feel the thing bubbling up. I feel it like it's coming forth. It's springing forth, right? I am in that place